Buongiorno a tutti e benvenuti. Bonjour à tous. Willkommen. Hola a todos. How are we all today? I'm Mark. I am your Coffee Break host, and I'm delighted to be here for another weekly Coffee Break catch-up. This is the show where we update you on everything that's happening here in Radiolingua Towers in Glasgow, Scotland, and we are sharing some information about what's happening with Coffee Break, and also some information for language learners, talking about language points, language interesting things, and also talking about cultural events, things that are happening around the world where you could go and practice your language skills. Now, it's fantastic to see that we've got some people watching live. Of course, if you're tuning into the catch-up of the catch-up, or a replay of this episode, then we're very delighted that you're here, of course. But if you're watching live, then we can actually say hello to you. So we can say hello to Sally. Sally is in Italy. Sally's very lucky. She's in Marchesine, a beautiful part of the world. She says, Oggi è caldo, ma ieri era molto freddo, domani pioverà. So today it is warm, but yesterday it was very cold, and tomorrow it's going to rain. Mi dispiace, Sally. I'm sorry about that, but hopefully the weather will improve. Paula is watching from the San Francisco Bay Area. I hope the sun is shining there. It must be early for you, Paula, but we hope that you enjoy this broadcast nonetheless. And we've got Barbara. Barbara, delighted that you're able to join us today, Barbara. It's a good day to catch up, rainy in this part of Idaho, USA. Thank you for joining us again, Barbara. It's always good to have you here. And we've also got Kenneth, who's saying, Ich komme aus den USA, und zwar aus Ann Arbor, Michigan. Now, Kenneth, I need to tell you, you've used one of my favourite German expressions. I love this, und zwar. Und zwar is where you give a little more information. You say something and then you specify a little more. So I love that expression. Well done for using that. Delighted to have you here, Kenneth. We've also got more comments here coming from Shelley, who's saying, it's so nice to hear you and see you. Thank you very much, Shelley. Likewise. And I like your Minnie Mouse ears there. Sally saying, fa caldo, ieri faceva molto freddo, mi dispiace. Non c'è male, non c'è nessun problema. We've got Dawn joining us from Auckland, where it's overcast with a chance of rain. Well, it's very nice to be able to tell you that today in Glasgow it is very sunny. Unfortunately, I've been inside all day, but nonetheless, I'm looking forward to getting outside a little later on and enjoying the sun. Just one more hello before we get started, and that's from Anita, who's joining us, a new watcher from Oregon, USA. So Anita, we really hope that you enjoy this. If it's your first time, then we hope that you enjoy our Coffee Break catch-up. So what is coming up in today's show? Well, I think if I bring in this button here, of course, we're doing some Coffee Break updates. We're talking about this week's talking point. I've already mentioned what our talking point is going to be, but I'll explain a little more in just a moment. And then our cultural roundup, where we talk about what's happening in the world of languages, well, with the world of culture rather, around various places where the language that you are learning is spoken. Now, just coming back to that talking point, because we will be talking about this a little later on, and if you have any thoughts on this, then it would be a good idea to post these in the chat, and then we can share these on the screen a little later. But our talking point today is all about constructed languages, artificial languages, languages that have been created for one reason or another. That may be to help people communicate, or it may be for a work of fiction. So we'll be looking at this a little later on. If you've got any thoughts, any opinions, or indeed any experience of constructed or artificial languages, then do feel free to post them in the comments. Okay, let's get started first of all with our Coffee Break news. So for our Coffee Break news, well, it's been a very, very busy week here at Radiolingua, because we are very pleased to have announced our brand new Coffee Break French project, and that's the Coffee Break French magazine. Now, see if I can bring this in again. Yep, here we are. Our Coffee Break French magazine launched on Monday, and our first episode was all about the delicious dish raclette, which is based around a cheese, and basically the idea is that you dip your meat and your vegetables in the cheese, in the raclette cheese, and it's delicious. And that was the focus of the first episode, which launched on Monday. Now, there are three parts to the magazine. There's a text that we discuss, and I discuss discuss this text with Pierre Benoit, and I'm sure you're familiar with Pierre Benoit. We're also delighted to be joined for this project by Susie, one of our new colleagues here at Radiolingua, and Susie is helping us with the text and also with the final section of the episode, which is something a little different, a little light. We add in perhaps an idiomatic phrase or some kind of interesting expression at the end. But the middle section, and this is where I'm going to bring something else onto the screen here. I think, yeah, I can do this. So the middle section is where we answer a question from the audience. So if you have a question about French, or indeed about Italian, I'll tell you about that in a moment, then you can send us your questions by going to coffeebreakquestions.com. And you can record a voicemail, and then you might be featured on the show. We could potentially answer your question live, or not live as such, in the recording of the show in a future episode of the magazine. So that was the Coffee Break French magazine, which, as I say, launched on Monday. And we also, as I'm sure you know, have our Coffee Break Italian magazine. And the Italian magazine is coming back this coming Monday with episode 2, and you'll be able to enjoy the audio podcast of episode 2, where we're talking about a beautiful part of Italy, and this is Il Gargano. Il Gargano is in the Puglia region of Italy, so we're calling it La... To take advantage of the full version of... Sorry, pressed the wrong button there. I think we're okay. I'm just going to watch my mic, because I think my mic is perhaps a little loud. I apologise for that. We are talking about La Perla della Puglia. This is the region of Il Gargano in Puglia. So that is what episode 2 is about, and you can look forward to that coming soon. That's on Monday, next Monday, which I believe is the 20th of May. That's La Perla della Puglia. Okay, so what else do we have coming up? Well, this week, in fact tomorrow, is a special day for some viewers, perhaps some listeners to Coffee Break, who happen to live in Norway, because tomorrow is a very special day for all Norwegians. Og vi ønsker alle våre norske venner en hjertelig bra 17. mai. Gratulerer med dagen. So thank you all to our Norwegian listeners, and we would like to wish you all a very happy 17. mai, 17th of May. And by way of a celebration of that, we are going to be making available our 1 minute Norwegian course for free on our YouTube channel. So if you are interested in learning some Norwegian, basic Norwegian, just in lessons of a couple of minutes, then you can access the full version of 1 minute Norwegian, all 10 lessons on our YouTube channel. And that's available now, so you can join us for that over on our YouTube channel. And we're also going to be posting an article about learning Norwegian tomorrow for the 17th of May. So that is coming up very soon. Well, it's coming up tomorrow. So that is our Coffee Break news for this week. Of course, next week there will be more content, more Italian episodes, and then you can look forward to our next French episode the week after that. And next week is also an En Marcha week. We are going on with lesson 8 of En Marcha next week, and it's an interesting one. We're talking about Malaga as an artistic city and as a regenerated city, so you can look forward to that next week too. Just coming back to the idea of coffee break questions, I'll just bring this onto the screen again. At the moment we're working on our French and Italian magazines, but we do have plans to launch a Spanish and a German magazine later in the year. So if you've got a question that you would like us to answer about German or Spanish grammar, perhaps you find something difficult, or you're looking for help with some aspect of the language, then you can send your questions to us by voicemail at that link. Simply connect your microphone, or if you're doing it on a mobile device, you can do that straight away. And go to coffeebreakquestions.com and send us your question, and as I say, you may be featured in a future episode. So that is Coffee Break Questions for French, German, Spanish and Italian. As I say, our Spanish and German magazines will be coming later in the year. That's it for our Coffee Break news for this week. Let's move on and think about our talking point. Okay, so our talking point this week is an interesting one. I have been reading this book, in the Land of Invented Languages. It's a very interesting book. It's a book that focuses on the methods and the ideas that are used when people create languages. Now, people have created languages for many, many, many years. The first created languages go back to about the 1100s. And the idea at that point, of course, was to enable communication between different peoples. Now, that has happened naturally through pidgins and creoles over thousands of years, where people are trying to communicate with each other. But when people actually create a language, that involves very often coming up with new words, coming up with words that are helping people understand one thing or another. So sometimes languages are created to allow for communication, to make it easier to communicate with different people. Think of languages like Esperanto. You may have heard of Esperanto as a language which is very often seen as a language which links other people, but it's a created language, and it's perhaps a simple language. The grammar rules are they're created in a simple way in order to allow people to communicate more clearly. But there's also another side of created or artificial languages, and that is languages which have been created for the purpose of perhaps literature or film or TV shows. And I was actually reading an article just last week about this very thing. It was in the Spanish newspaper. Let me just bring this up. The Spanish newspaper La Vanguardia, and it was about El Juego de Tronos. Now, if you're a Spanish speaker, I'm sure you've worked out that Juego de Tronos means Game of Thrones. And let's just take a look at this headline. Más de 1 millón de personas estudian Valirio, la lengua ficticia de Juego de Tronos. So more than 1 million people are studying Valyrian, the fictitious language of Game of Thrones. And the subtitle there, aprender el dialecto que hablan los personajes de la serie se ha convertido en un negocio para los cursos de idiomas online. So learning the dialect that's spoken by the characters in the series has converted itself, has become a negocio, a trading point, and a valuable, interesting thing for business, for online language courses. Now, first of all, I should say that we're not planning a coffee break Valyrian anytime soon. Okay, we've got other languages that we would like to tackle first, nor are we planning a Klingon or Dothraki or indeed Esperanto anytime soon. However, I think this is very interesting, a very interesting topic. And what I was interested in, I wanted to find out a little more about this whole idea that over 1 million people are studying Valyrian, which is the language, one of the languages spoken in Game of Thrones, along with Dothraki and other languages. And I wanted to find out a little more about this. So I looked online. I think I've got these slides I can share with you. Let me see. Yep. So we had a look online, and on the Duolingo website, they actually publish, well, that's just my book there, the book I'm reading, not the book I've written. So they've published the number of people studying each language with Duolingo. And here we have Spanish, starting off. This is languages learned by English speakers. So Spanish for English speakers, 22.2 million, and then French, German, Japanese, and so on. So you're going right down the list there of different languages. But as we continue on through this list of languages, what is very interesting is that nestled between Greek and Irish, we have High Valyrian, and there are 971,000 people learning High Valyrian on Duolingo. And there you can also see Klingon further down the table at 508,000. So what this is suggesting is that the fact that the number of people interested in these languages is in some cases as high as the number of people interested in learning what we would see as huge world languages like Vietnamese and Hindi and Hebrew and so on. So really, really interesting stuff. The fact is, of course, that if you're into that kind of thing, if you're into the Game of Thrones and other created series, perhaps you are the kind of person that is more into using apps for language learning. That's one possibility. But I'm interested in the idea of what is the value in learning a constructed language? What is the value in learning a fictional language? And is this something that you would be interested in doing? That's a question for you. Would you ever like to learn a created language, an artificial language, a fictional language? Do you think it would help you appreciate Game of Thrones or the Tolkien books with Elvish and other languages? Would that be something that would be of interest to you? I think that there are interesting aspects of this, and I think one of the things that is always very interesting is that these languages are very much created by expert linguists. So we've got people like David J. Peterson, who is the linguist who created Dothraki and Valyrian, and he created these based on ideas that, for example, looking at Valyrian and Dothraki are warrior, well, Dothraki in particular, a warrior language, so it has harsh sounds, like the letter Q in Dothraki is presented as a very sort of a harsh sound. I'm not very good at Dothraki, so that's probably not a correct sound. So I just wonder if this is the kind of thing that would interest you. Would you be interested in learning a Dothraki or Valyrian, or indeed Esperanto, something like that? I guess that one of the important aspects of it is the pronunciation, and the pronunciation that is used in these languages is often borrowed from other languages. So when David Peterson was creating Dothraki and Valyrian, he was using sounds from other languages. And likewise, the grammar that is used in these languages will help you understand how grammar works. Very often, if you're learning a language that's similar to English, you would be thinking in terms of English as your base language, so that you can use your point of reference as English and then see where that goes with the other language. But for example, we have other languages like Klingon, for example, and in Klingon, the linguist who created Klingon, and you can see here that Klingon is featured in the Duolingo list, but the linguist who created Klingon, Mark Okrand, he decided that he was going to use a different type of word order in Klingon to make it sound that bit more alien, if you like. So in English, we're used to the subject, verb, object word order. So, for example, the cat chases the mouse. We've got the subject being the cat, chases, verb, the mouse, object. But for Klingon, the linguist Okrand developed an object, verb, subject. So if we had the cat chasing the mouse, then that would become mouse, chase, cat. But it would still mean the cat chases the mouse. But in that different order, it sounds that bit more alien. Let's see what some of you are saying about this whole idea. So we've got Jade, who's saying it sounds really interesting, and she also mentioned computer languages too. That's a whole other story there with computer languages, and I definitely don't think we'll be doing a coffee break C++ anytime soon, but fascinating stuff. And another comment from Jade, it gives a whole new meaning to modern languages that are constructed indeed. Barbara is saying, I'm very happy learning the patterns of Italian, but it is interesting for younger brains, certamente. Interesting, perhaps. It's not for everybody, obviously. And we've got Vigdis, who is saying, J'aime apprendre le français avec Coffee Break Français from Norway, sunny and warm today. Vigdis, I hope it stays sunny and warm in Norway for you tomorrow. Och gratulerar med dagen. I hope you have a great day tomorrow in Norway. So, let us know if you are learning a constructed language, an artificial language, and of course if you're watching this after the event and you pick up the video, then do let us know what you think about the whole idea of constructed languages. We're going to leave it there for our talking point, but we do have our cultural roundup coming up, so let us move forward to that. Okay, as ever, we are going to move on to our cultural side of things now, so let me just bring in our slides. We can get rid of this one and move on to our next one. So, our cultural roundup for this week starts, of course, in the beautiful town of Cannes in the south of France, where the Cannes Film Festival is already underway. Now, it started on the 14th of May, it's running until the 25th, and of course, you're bound to have heard of the Cannes Film Festival, and if you have ever been in Cannes, it is a wonderful time to visit the town during this festival. Lots of famous faces, and of course, if you can catch a film or two, even better. I remember visiting Cannes while I was living in the south of France, and it was fascinating. I remember seeing Kylie Minogue there. Kylie Minogue was on the steps of the theatre in Cannes when I was there. That's a fond memory of my time in Cannes. So coming back to our stories, we've also got another cultural event, and that is happening in Spain, in the city of Segovia. Now, Segovia is a beautiful city near Madrid, northwest of Madrid in the Castilla y Leon region. And the Titirimundi festival is a festival of puppets. It's an event for puppet fans happening between the 14th and 19th of May. So there are indoor venues and also street venues, so venues on the streets of the city, and companies from different areas, different countries present a range of performances ranging from traditional puppets to acrobatic groups and street entertainers. So that's the Titirimundi Puppet Festival from the 14th to the 19th of May. Moving on to Italy, and this sounds like an event for me. I love the idea of this. Unfortunately, I can't get to Milan this weekend, but this is happening currently, and it is the Piano City Milan from the 17th to the 19th of May. The whole city is turned into a concert hall where homes and courtyards and metro stations, trams, museums, squares, gardens and other venues, they're all open to music and to the public for free, and you can enjoy a piano concert with an unlimited repertoire of musical genre with many pianists and spectators, and there's lots for children too. There's the Piano Kids event in Milan as well this weekend, so workshops and lessons for children. It sounds like my kind of event. Sticking with music, but very much a different type of music. This different type of music is Dixieland Jazz, and if you fancy some Dixieland Jazz, then you can go to Dresden in Germany this coming, starting on the 19th of May. This is the International Dixieland Festival in Dresden, and it's Germany's oldest and Europe's biggest old-time jazz festival. It attracts up to around 500,000 jazz fans to the city, and one of the annual highlights is the riverboat shuttle on the Elbe, where the world's oldest and largest fleet of paddle steamers becomes a floating stage, and festival goers are invited to step aboard. And of course, there's a Dixieland parade through the centre of Dresden during the festival. So it sounds fantastic, a fantastic way to celebrate music with the Dixieland Jazz Festival in Dresden from the 19th to the 26th of May. Now, there is one other cultural event that we cannot go past this weekend, and that is the wonderful Eurovision. I managed to mute my microphone there, sorry about that. The Eurovision Song Contest, which is taking place in Tel Aviv this Saturday. The rehearsals and the heats are underway, the semi-finals are underway already, and the final happens this Saturday in Tel Aviv. Now, I'm sure lots of people have very different views on the Eurovision, but I always think it's a wonderful celebration of all things crazy and all things musical, and sometimes not so much musical, but it's always very good fun, and I'm thoroughly looking forward to watching Eurovision on Saturday night. Now, if you're from the States and have no idea about the Eurovision Song Contest, I do believe it is broadcast on one of the channels in the States. I'm not quite sure, but I know that if we've got any Australians watching, then you can be looking forward to watching Eurovision, but it will be Sunday morning for you, and I'm sure perhaps in the cold light of day it's not as much fun, but I'm sure you're looking forward to it anyway. So that is Eurovision happening this weekend. Now, I should say that if you're watching this, then you can make sure that you get all the links that we've mentioned, and for all the information about the different festivals, the different the topics that we've discussed, a link to the article about constructed languages, and we'll put these links in multiple languages in our newsletter, and that is our Coffee Break Catch-Up newsletter, which goes out tomorrow. So we'll be preparing that over the rest of the day, and that will be heading out tomorrow morning, certainly tomorrow morning in the UK, so you can wake up to that if you're in the US, and you'll get that tomorrow evening, and if you're in the southern hemisphere towards Australia. So if you are not yet signed up to our newsletter, just go to radiolingua.com/newsletters, and I don't think I've got a link for that, but you'll be able to find it, radiolingua.com/newsletter. Newsletter in the singular. I said newsletters there a moment ago. Okay, we just got a couple more people saying hello here. We've got Gail saying, watching and enjoying from sunny and rainy California. Merci for all the interesting information. Pas de problème. Merci beaucoup, Gail. Vigdis is replying to my 17th of May greetings. Önskar dig också en fin 17 maj. Tack ska du ha. And we've got Katya saying bonjour. And I think that's everyone. Thank you once again for joining us for this weekly catch-up, and we hope that you're enjoying this new way of sharing our news and sharing all the latest information from Radiolingua. As I say, if you're joining us in the replay of the catch-up, you're very welcome too. This will go out on Facebook, of course, and it will also go out on YouTube, so we'll be adding that to YouTube in the next hour or so. And of course the links to this will be in our catch-up newsletter, which you can enjoy tomorrow. That's it for this week. We hope that you've enjoyed it, and do tune in for our episode 2 of the Coffee Break Italian magazine on Monday, and of course our new Spanish content later in the week next week. But just stay tuned to the website, and of course follow us on social media. We are Coffee Break Languages on Instagram, Coffee Break Languages on Facebook. As you know, if you're watching this, you'll probably be watching on Facebook, certainly the live version. And you can find all our individual pages, and they will be in the newsletter too. And if you're a LinkedIn user, we're starting to use LinkedIn too, just looking at different ways of sharing what we do. So come and follow Radiolingua over on LinkedIn too. That's it for this week. Thank you once again. I am off to enjoy some sunshine, hopefully quite soon. Thank you and goodbye. We'll see you soon, and that's it for this week. Bye-bye. Oh, I forgot, I always say goodbye in a different language. So today I'm going to choose Greek. Let's go with Greek. Andio. Ευχαριστώ πολύ.